Hi, creative friends. I'm sharing a special episode where I was a guest on my friend Amy Sylvis podcast, Secrets to Abundant Living. You can probably guess by the name of the podcast what we're going to talk about. Going to share some of my perspective on what abundance means to me, especially at this stage of my life, and how it affects how I want to spend my time day to day. I do a lot of talking here in this video, but if you want to hear more conversations like this, definitely check out Amy's podcast. I'll link it down below and learn about her super inspiring story going from being medically disabled to founding an uber successful real estate company. So without further ado, here's the conversation and I hope you enjoy it.
An adjustment I had to make after leaving corporate. We used to collect a paycheck from our W-2. After we started the business, we had full responsibility. When something goes well, we have a good month, it's on us. But when nothing happens, all the responsibility falls on us too. Like there's no guarantee of a paycheck anymore. That took a long time for me to get used to, and I had to build multiple streams of income in order to feel a safety net of some sort. Like, hey, if one falls through, there's still others that are working for me.
Welcome to the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. Your guide on this journey is Amy Sylvis. If you're ready for the secrets to an abundant life, hit that subscribe button now, and let's get started.
Secrets to Abundant Living podcast listeners, welcome to another amazing episode. I have such a treat for you today. For those who don't know me, my name is Amy Sylvis. I am the founder and principal of Sylvis Capital. We introduce folks to fantastic real estate, hands-off investing opportunities. And this podcast is all about abundance, as I'm sure you know. And I am excited to introduce you to my longtime friend, my B school, fellow student, investor. She's so amazing. Kathy Zhang, welcome. I'm so excited to have you today.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for having me on. I can't believe we've known each other since 2008, 2007. It's crazy.
7, I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been 15 years plus.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Yeah.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you today. As we were talking before we hit record, platforming women that are entrepreneurs, that are trailblazers, moms that wear all the hats, just like you, it is so exciting to me. So I'm just really excited for folks to get to know you and hear more about you. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I am Kathy, as you mentioned. I'm a mom of 2 young children. They're 6 and 2.5. I'm also now an artist and a small business owner. I worked in corporate for 10 years before I left it for good to start my own business. My art business was started out of my dining table when I felt disenfranchised and just a little bit lost myself and my identity from just being a profession and an industry that I wasn't passionate about. I started painting after work, and that led to me doing this 100-day project of where I painted something different every day in watercolor. After the project was over, people, mostly friends and family, started showing interest, wanted to commission me for art. So I had no idea that people were willing to pay for what I did at the time, because like I said, we were just in this straight business MBA track. And I thought, hey, why not? Let's see where it goes. A few months later, started an Etsy shop. And a few months after that, I talked to my then fiance and said, hey, I'm going to give this a go. And I'm going to give this a year a go and see where I can take this. So, about 9-10 months after I started painting, I left my corporate job at Nike to do this, give this art thing a try.
Absolutely amazing. I love the story. I mean, they're just, yeah. And we'll dive deeper so folks can see what your art looks like and, all of that. But I just love the courage that it takes to, I think you said, maybe feeling like you've lost some of your identity or who you are, what matters to you, and to be able to really shape your life, create what you want in life. Can you walk us through a little bit of what that felt like for you?
Yeah. I know your podcast called Abundant Living. So we can talk a little bit about that. I feel like the definition of abundance has evolved a lot as we age. And we're both in our 40s. And in our 20s, it was a lot easier to define, right? I feel like, I've kind of synthesized this framework. I didn't come up with it, but I've learned from various podcasts and books I listened to. But in our 20s, there was speaking, we're in this accumulation phase where abundance is about accumulating status, job titles, money, compensation, and rightly so, right? We just got out of college, maybe business school, had student debt, and we just wanted to feel like we can afford things, afford a certain lifestyle. So all of those things were right. And I mean, they're reasonable to have in our 20s and to want. In our 30s, I feel like we're slowly kind of evolving into more optimization where we realize we are getting older. Maybe we're starting families, we're partnering up, and we see that, maybe we don't have the same energy or just the same, not so much the same drive, or just our sense of purpose or what we want change from just a lot of trial and error in our 20s, working in different jobs, and also wanting more flexibility with our time and with our relationships, to build our relationships. And then we come to our 40s. I mean, I'm only a year in, so I'm not a guru or anything. I feel like I'm slowly stepping into this simplifying and like paying it forward phase where abundance means kind of like on my way to search for meaning. I need more flexibility of time and also more creative freedom for me to experiment without being bound to strict, a 9 to 5 job per se, and or just all those responsibilities that keep increasing and growing at this stage in my life. I'm also a mom, like I mentioned, so time is scarce. So time is a big one of the factors of abundance for me. And that's not to say money isn't either. We live in California. It's expensive, but it's a lot of juggling of different priorities. I think that's a little more nuanced definition of abundance, if that makes sense.
I love it. I love how you brought us through the different stages for you, because that's real. I think a lot of people can relate to that, where, I get the sense that maybe we're told that, oh, this money accumulation phase of abundance in our 20s, we had it wrong, but we turned around and we corrected it. No, it's just a matter of where you are. It's kind of like the hierarchy of needs, right? I mean, it's great to have flexibility, but if you don't have enough money to pay the bills, all the flexibility in the world isn't going to put food on the table. So
right.
I love that you highlight this evolution, and and your only identity isn't just as, an MBA holder or a corporate, W-2 employee, also as a mom, as a wife, and really, as you said, balancing all of those things while still creating abundance for yourself. Your life isn't just about you as you have children and a spouse and all of those things. So I think that's really profound. What you mentioned, having a conversation. I know your husband, so this is a leading question, but I want our audience to understand this a bit more. But what was that conversation like with him? You being an entrepreneur, you stepping away from, maybe what some would consider to be a more secure source of income. You may have a different opinion, but can you talk us through what that was like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm glad you're pulling the thread on that one. I haven't talked about it enough. At the time, we were both corporate employees. We actually both worked for Nike at the time, and we had a mortgage. We're about to get married, but we bought a house first. Granted, it was Oregon, so not nearly as expensive as here, which, to be honest, also allowed me to take that risk because we live in the lower cost of living. So I just, need to name all the things that make it work, right? Because we kind of have to create this right environment to do something like that in our adult lives. When I first brought it up, it wasn't an easy conversation because, going forward, like he came from a very pro stability. I mean, we all did. We're all children of immigrant parents. So we all valued financial stability over anything else, right? And it was difficult because I am basically pursuing something that society deems as the most common way someone described the industry I'm going into is the starving artist mindset, right? So there's still a lot of that expectation, not from him per se, but like we know that's what society expectation or not expectation, that's kind of the perception. So I was out to prove to myself and whoever I needed to at the time that I could still make it. But it still took time, for him to get comfortable. Ultimately, he's super supportive. He still is working the corporate job. So again, that's another level of privilege that I need to admit too, is that I am married to someone with a stable corporate job. So even if we're back in California with 2 kids, push comes to shove, one of us has a stable job with insurance. If it doesn't work out, I can always look for a job too, because I did work in corporate. And so all of these factors have to be discussed as a couple and now as a family with kids to really take that risk. Look, it might sound like I'm just jumping off without a parachute, but no, we had to talk about savings, how much savings we had, can we afford monthly costs? And I don't need to go into all the weeds of stuff, but as you can imagine, with two people in their 30s was about to get married and start a family, it was a much needed conversation to have for that. At the same time, I knew that if I didn't do it, it might never happen, because we knew we were going to start a family soon. So I knew my time would be even more scarce as I get older. So I was like, this is kind of the sweet spot where we're kind of on our own in Oregon. We have more free time than we possibly ever could. And like, this is the time to take the risk. And it's calculated risk, but it's still a risk.
I love that. As you were saying that, I think of abundance as a result of being very intentional, but also calculated, right? As you said, you didn't just jump out. So this notion of leaving behind a W-2 because it doesn't give you the flexibility, maybe doesn't fulfill you, the identity piece. But you didn't just, make a rash decision. You have a supportive partner who I adore, by the way. He's awesome. We had a great conversation in person a few weeks ago. And also this notion of, really understanding the expense part and really thinking this through. And so it doesn't have to be a rash decision, but it also doesn't have to be something that you mull over for years and years and years and kind of, maybe set yourself up for regrets. I just love that you highlight kind of the steps for people to understand if they're thinking about this. And it's not for everybody, but if they're thinking through, to really see how you weigh that and also acknowledge, the privilege and the circumstances, of course.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's really healthy.
Yeah. And as you changed career a couple of times in your lives too, so you can relate to this. These decisions, they might happen in a bubble between yourself, you and your partner, your immediate family. But once it's out there, it's like, the information's out there and people will perceive it and judge it how they will, right? And especially when we're stepping into a new territory in our own social circle or broader social circle, sometimes you get just weird responses or just lack of responses. And like in the beginning, it's fragile. Like I often liken this to like being a very small sprout. Like you have to provide the right environment for it to grow and water it the right amount, having the right sunlight, because it's delicate, because I don't know if I can make it. So any other external attack or judgment, whether they're intentional or not, or they're just projecting their own fears, it has an effect. So like we have to be very careful when we start this new venture, that sometimes it's better to, at least in my experience, sometimes it's better to not overshare it, but at the same time, I have to share it enough so that people know what I'm doing so they can support me if they want to. It's a delicate dance, right? I don't know if you had experience with that when you're, changing career. I mean, you did a 180 too in every possible way.
And I love that you bring up the fact that, who we're around, we have to be intentional and kind of protect and guard that. I have a business coach who talks about the 5 freedoms that most people strive for. The freedom of being able to do what we want, so time, the freedom of relationships, so being able to, unlike a corporate job, choose who we're around and intentionally, cultivate that. And then, of course, geography, money, several other things that, of course, I'm blanking on the last one. But when you talk about kind of, and I'll talk about myself too, because you artfully asked me a question back, which I love.
Yes, I'm interviewing back.
That's some varsity level podcasting there, Kathy. I love it. I love it.
I don't even own one, but
yes, no, it's good.
I don't have a podcast. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's really, really good. Do you feel though, in this process of leaving corporate America, that you're able to control the people that you're around more? I know some people talk about, their work life is their work life and they don't really get to choose their colleagues or choose their customers. Whereas, but maybe not as an entrepreneur either. Maybe you don't get to choose your customers as much as well. Do you feel that freedom of relationship, as it were, where you are?
I think so. I
Okay.
have much more freedom relationship, but that also comes with my own responsibility, right? Like instead of being in this fishbowl, we're now in the ocean and we have to find our own fish, right? So yes, I can choose to spend time with you today or, you know, potentially one of millions of other people, but
Yes.
we have to reach out. We have to cultivate those relationships. We have to form those communities. And to be honest, that was hard too, because when you started, not to point it back at you, but
Yeah.
that's what I do. Like you have to find people in real estate, right? You maybe weren't around people like that when you worked in healthcare. So that took time to transition. And it's like as someone who is not experienced in that industry, it's like how do you build that credibility and trust so that you can start to build community? You find people who are kind of at your level or a little bit above, who's willing to take you with them, or who's willing to be your accountability buddy or things like that so that you can grow together. I think a lot of people want to just jump ahead to find like this super senior mentor, in your case, maybe like a famous podcaster, but they don't have the time of the day. Like it's actually better in the long run for you to find your peers or like someone who's a little bit one or two steps ahead of you and grow together. I don't know if
Yes.
that's answering your question, but
100%. Oh, absolutely. And I think it really just goes back to this. I'm asked all the time, what was the biggest kind of mindset change or leap I had to make in order to be successful in my industry? And it really was figuring out that going alone, for me, kind of felt instinctual, kind of as a protective thing of, oh, okay, might not do everything perfectly. I don't want other people to see. So I'm just going to kind of go alone and, when
Exactly.
things work out, I'll start to share. But I made no progress that way. And it was as soon as I got in community with like-minded people, like you said, who were either my peers, a little bit ahead of me, that's when things really took off. I think as humans, even subconsciously, we just become the people that we surround ourselves by. So
Yeah.
being around people that are a little ahead of us can really just draw things out of us, just create the ideal environment. And sometimes that means really changing and shifting who you're around. To go back to your artfully placed question, as someone living with cystic fibrosis, I don't have many people in the community that got to go to college, that got to even work, let alone got to start their own company. And I did absolutely receive from some people when I was on disability, and I was so grateful because I had a former employer that had really good benefits. So when I was too sick to work, I got to go on disability. I got this miracle drug. And I had a decision, do I want to stay on disability? Nothing wrong with that. I want to be very clear. There's nothing wrong with needing support because your health is in a really tough spot. But people thought I was nuts to give that all up to try my hand at something I dreamed about. So I could have stayed in that spot and listened to those negative voices, or took a leap and changed my community, the people I were around, to really understand and see what it would take to be successful in this arm. So,
I'm so proud of you. Look at you now.
Yeah. Well, you as well. You as well. So what, if I can ask, what else in your life would you like to do to cultivate abundance? Is there anything that's on your list?
Let's see. As I mentioned earlier, abundance, it keeps coming back to me because, again, I'm a mom of two kids. It's right now at this stage of my life is really the balance, or often feels like the juggling of the things that matter to me the most. And for me, and it really sounds cliche because everyone agree with these things, right? Time, the five freedoms you talked about: time, health, relationships, and
Geography.
else.
Yeah.
Geography. Yeah. For me, a bit of meaning too, where I'm starting to learn that no, it is a juggling act, because even though those things are all priorities, they're often at odds with each other, right? Because for you to invest in one of those areas, you sometimes on a daily or hourly basis, you have to negotiate between like which one you choose, right? Do I want to go to my daughter's Halloween parade, or do I want to churn out this I don't know, this YouTube video, which adds meaning? Their family is important, but I also, it's like at some point, like I need I need a holistic identity. I'm more than a mom. I'm more than an artist. I'm more than a partner. It's like I need to have all these things, but also related to abundance too. Like sometimes abundance also is knowing what's enough or when is it enough. Uh, and that's a loaded question, right? Depends on what that is and who you are, where you've been in life, how you grew up, and what psychology around money or abundance you have, right? Like that could be a whole podcast on its own. But yeah, it's really the balancing of the four. And the thing is, I know the season will pass and then the next one will come. So I will never find a balance. Like I will never find meaning or reach optimal time, freedom, optimization. It's really just in the journey. It's like we have to enjoy at least, we have to at least the time that the process and the journey of getting there at least can't suck. Like we need to learn to enjoy the process because there's never going to be a true destination. Like there's always going to be a new goalpost and we have to just find contentment in what we're doing now, not to get too philosophical.
I love it. I love it because I do think many of us, myself included, I'm 43, so I'm a few years older than you, but look back and think that our culture lied to us about, hey, once you reach the mountaintop, whatever that goal is, you're going to be fulfilled and eternally happy and everything's going to be great, as opposed to, hey, let's make this journey wonderful. Let's get to the destination, but that's not mutually exclusive to enjoying the journey. And to your point that I think was so great as well of there are going to be other goals that seasons change, things change. And so really not just working and sacrificing everything just to get to a goal that may or may not make us feel the way we hope it does. It's really important to have that nuanced and balanced approach to the journey. That's really powerful. It's really powerful.
And I don't know if it's because we're out on our own. So, all of the rules are thrown out the door. Like I don't have a ladder to climb anymore. It's like, I don't care what my job title is anymore. And I think because of that, we've had to define all of these meanings ourselves and evolve as our business grows, as we age, as people around us, as, we're influenced also by our peers, like you said. So and another thing I just thought of too, and like a difference between an adjustment I had to make after leaving corporate for years probably is just the idea of, not the idea, but it's a fact that we used to collect a paycheck from our W-2 every 2 weeks from the time that we put into the work. After we started the business, it's like we had full responsibility. When something goes well, we have a good month, sales month, then it's on us. But when nothing happens, all the responsibility falls on us too. Like there's no guarantee of a paycheck anymore. So like that took a long time for me to get used to, and I had to build multiple streams of income in order to feel a safety net of some sort. Like, hey, if one falls through, there's still others that are working for me. I know that's something that you're really big on in your podcast as well. I don't know if we have time to get deep into it, but I just want to bring that up because that's a must. It's essential to, especially a creative business. Like you need to build multiple streams of income.
Have you ever thought about having multiple streams of income? Instead of relying on just one stream of income where you're trading your time for money, how would you like to free up more of your time and live a more abundant life? As a listener of the show, you're invited to attend one of our upcoming trainings where I'll give you an inside look into how you can add passive income and get all the other perks of recession-resistant real estate investing without the headaches of being a landlord. We'll also be sharing some hidden mistakes to avoid and the criteria I personally look for when evaluating potential investment opportunities. To reserve your seat for free, go to sylviscapital.com/webinar. Again, that special link to reserve your seat for free is sylviscapital.com/webinar. I look forward to seeing you on the training. And now back to the show. Your husband talked to me about your YouTube channel and kind of how, speaking of abundance, you all are giving away so much for free to educate, to help folks. Can you tell us a little bit more about the genesis of the channel and maybe how that fits into the multiple streams of income. Maybe that wasn't the intention at the beginning, but
Yeah.
do you mind?
All of the above.
Yeah,
All
tell
of
us a little bit about
the
that.
above are true. Yeah, I started off just wanting to sell my art. I have an e-commerce website. I do licensing work, wholesale, which is selling to stores in the US that sell to their customers. And I also did freelancing. So I already had 4 income streams to start because that's what it took, in my opinion. Somewhere along the line, I think I was looking into product development for something for like a pin or something. And I realized the process of it, just that whole product development process is really opaque. No one online at the time, it was at least 6 years ago, where no one online shared what that step-by-step process. Luckily we had a friend who was also selling similar products. So we asked her what her process was, and we kind of tweaked it to our own. But no one was sharing that stuff. Now I think it's pretty abundant, not to reuse the word, on YouTube. So I really just saw YouTube as a host, like a platform to host a video I wanted to share, so that if anybody asked me, I would send them to the YouTube link. It's basically like a place to host instructional video. I had no idea there's a whole huge, gigantic economy on YouTube. People are making full-time living on there. The creator economy is exploding, has been exploding. But it was only not until 2020 when the whole world locked down and Nam was between jobs. My husband was between jobs at the time. We're like, hey, we have so much time. Let's make some more videos of topics that we think could be more accessible out there for free on YouTube. So we made a video about how to start a greeting card business from home, which at the time, by the time we made that, it seemed so obvious. But of course, a few years back, it wasn't. Right? But just no one was sharing that process from end to end and being really transparent, not holding anything back, not keeping anything behind a gated, high ticket consulting package or mastermind or something. And yeah, it took off during that time. We got monetized, which was a new concept to me, which just means when you post on, when you have a YouTube channel, when it reaches certain milestones, metrics in terms of subscribers and views, then you become a YouTube partner. You can start collecting YouTube ad revenue. You're in a revenue share model with YouTube. So they decide what ads to put in front of your video or in the middle, and you get a cut of that. So it's relatively passive.
Yeah.
I know you love that word too, because once you make the content, it's out there. YouTube is a search engine. And yes, videos from 4 or 5 years ago are still, making me ad revenue money. And there's also other revenue streams that come with that too, that I haven't explored, but would like to. But it was a really accidental journey, but it's very fulfilling because it's a different type of fulfillment than making art and seeing people connect with my art and seeing, my art on people's walls. It's serving another audience. And I feel like a lot of people back when we made our career switch, there are people in their 20s and 30s and 40s and even 60s who want a different career, a different life, or even if they're retired, they want to finally answer their creative calling. So it could just be a side hustle that they're starting in addition to their day job, or it's something that they're looking to eventually transition. I feel like that's where my sweet spot is helping someone who is where I was 8 years ago.
Yes. Well, and how, to overuse the term, how much of abundance is giving back and giving to others, right? It can feel enormously satisfying and fulfilling to be able to say, hey, I was there once, or, and this is how I got where I am, or here's something new that I learned. And, you make money off of it. Great. It's monetized, but you're still ultimately providing something that helps people, that's accessible. And I'm sure you get feedback too on how much you've helped folks.
Oh yeah, tons. And it's very validating and it motivates me to keep doing that. And in regards to the videos I mentioned, we made it for years without being monetized. Like it's something that we would do it for free. If money wasn't an issue, I think I would still be making videos. I would still paint. So I am doing the 2 things that I would do for free. But again, we got bills to pay, children to raise. So unfortunately and fortunately, I'm setting an example that, you can have a thriving creative business and be commercially successful.
I love it. Wow. So we're checking all the boxes, it seems like. I know your life isn't perfect. We're not painting it as such, but
Not at all.
just that you have that creative freedom. You've got more control over your time. It sounds like you're more present with your children, your husband, you're giving back. You've got that fulfillment aspect. For people that are looking at you, that are feeling really encouraged and inspired that, whether it is they want to start a side hustle or go completely from their W-2 to an entrepreneurial investor journey, what's one piece of advice that you would give to them?
Yeah, when you say go completely, it elicited a feeling already, because now that I'm older with more responsibility, again, it depends on where, not to give a too nuanced answer, but it depends on which stage of life you're in. I wouldn't recommend just quitting your job right tomorrow and deciding to start something new, right? You went through a transition process as well, and so did I. We need to have safety net for us to take these risks, especially with something creative. It's not conducive to feel like you have to monetize everything you create, because that just sucks the creativity and the inspiration out of it. So you need a good long transition period. If you listen to enough people's stories, everybody has transition period, and that could be a few months to several years, and that's totally fine. But also, it's like better late than never, right? It's never going to feel like what it actually feels once you're there. The only way to do it is just take that next baby step. I have this mantra, slogan, whatever you call it, at the end of my YouTube video. It's, you don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to take the next step. And that was the kind of approach I did with investing with you too. It was something I had completely zero knowledge about, and I just had to take one step in front of the other, do my due diligence, talk to you, listen to podcasts, educate myself. And that's really how anybody gets started. Like, it's not out of convenience. It's because something is firing up inside you. And I feel like if you don't do it now, it might, you might never get the chance to, or you'll have regrets later in life.
That's brilliant. I love that you highlight the transition, because I think a lot of us, even on social media or books or podcasts, look at these really successful people, and it can sound like, even if it's not intentional, that it happened overnight or it was a big leap. And to use the word that you use, having some nuance about the transition and what it takes to get from point A to point B is so important for folks to know. And then also that next best step. I mean, how powerful is that? They say you don't eat an elephant, right? All at once, it's one bite at a time, but it feels so much. I just felt even my shoulders dropping as you were saying it, that we can all just think of the next step. You have to think 20 steps ahead. Just what's the next thing? Is it picking up the phone? Is it having the conversation? Is it listening to the podcast or going to the library to get the book, or, whatever that takes? That's so accessible.
Yeah. And, in business school, we took a whole class on business plan, how to create a business plan, right? In real life, realistically, I think a very small percentage of people make an actual business plan. Planning is, of course, it's good, but we're not raising money, we're just bootstrapping something small. You don't need a full flush plan. This is what I'm going to do for the next 5 to 10 years. We're not a public company.
Yes.
So we just figure out what we need to do in the next 90 days and just break that into tasks. Yeah, I know it's still hard, right? Things still sound abstract as we're talking about it, but yeah, like if you want it enough, I believe you'll make it happen. And I'm still in it. No, I haven't reached anything, so I don't want to make it seem like, look at me now, because I'm still, like I said, the balance, the juggle, and just multiple changing identities between all the things I've said, my roles and responsibilities. So yeah, it's not perfect, but I would choose this over, what I did 10 years ago, for sure.
There it is. Well, Kathy, it's such a privilege to talk to you today. I am positive our listeners are going to be so eager to hear more from you, learn more about you, see what you're up to. Can you let us know how people can get in touch with you, see what you do, all of the good things?
Sure. I am most active now on YouTube. You can look for my channel, Easy Sunday Club. It's spelled out how it sounds. Sort of active on Instagram, but I'm trying to quit social media right now, as many people are. You can still reach me. I don't check my DM as much. And if you go on my website, ebsundayclub.com, you can also find my email there.
I love it. And I have to admit, this is my confession. I didn't realize what Easy Sunday Club was in reference to until truly a couple months ago. Can you, just for people who may be a little dense like me, just kidding.
Wait, what did you realize? Because I don't think most people realize.
Well, it was something about the Sunday Scaries, right? Was that the genesis of it?
Yeah.
And I had only learned about
that and got it.
It may have been something on your YouTube channel. Something helped connect the dots. It wasn't something I just randomly came up with, but I mean, I didn't even hear the term the Sunday Scaries until a couple years ago myself. So I don't know. I mean, we all experience it, but just
there's also
the term.
A song like Easy Sunday, right? Easy like Sunday. I need that one.
That's kind of what I thought it was in reference to. So yeah,
that was the inspiration. I think I heard it at that time, like recently in a movie, and I was like, oh, that sounds like it has a nice ring to it. And also kind of like a wordplay on the acronym. Easy Sunday Club is ESC, which is the escape button on the keyboard. So, you have the Sunday Scaries, you're aspiring to escape the world, whatever situation we're in now that makes you unhappy. And that's the forward-looking inspiration there. So I wanted something that started with the C after the EV Sunday, and there you go.
I love it. This is so much fun, Kathy. Thank you again for blessing everyone. Yeah, with your knowledge, your wisdom, and I know folks are going to be reaching out, excited to follow your journey and maybe even work with you.
Thank you. Gosh, I still have so much to learn and grow, but thank you for having me.
We all do. And this is how we grow, right? And learn by having these conversations and sharing. So thanks again.
Exactly.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights that will empower you on your journey towards abundance. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback means the world to us, and it helps others discover the secrets to an abundant life too. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn, Amy Sylvis. Keep striving for your goals, nurturing your relationships, and embracing the adventure that is life. Until next time, we wish you an abundantly fulfilling day.